ESPN says Texas Tech is the number one team in the country, yet they still say Utah will win the game on Saturday. How does ESPN reconcile that? How do they square that together? I don't really know, but to be honest, it's a microcosm of just how fascinating this game is between these two teams. And when I say fascinating, like this is a fascinating matchup with so many juicy storylines. It may not be the only time we see this game this year. This has the feel of like this could be Big 12 game of the year in week one. Now, I caution you, it felt an awful lot like that when we had Utah at Oklahoma State last year at this same time, same moment in the season, this early. And that obviously wound up to be a massive flop. I think there is way too much talent on both of these teams for that to end up being the case again, but maybe it's not the Big 12 game of the year. I just say there's plenty of reason to look at it on paper and say this has a shot. Okay. I have enjoyed some of the bickering and the banter back and forth so far this week between Texas Tech and Utah, and it has gotten to a point where I'm going to share this with you from my guy Rob Bro. Make sure to go follow him if you are a Big 12 fan. Certainly, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you probably already are. But if you're a Big 12 fan, make sure and go follow him as well. This is a Texas Tech fan who was bragging to Utah fans about the size of fish that they catch. So that's how much bickering has been going back and forth between Tech and Utah fans. Because to be honest, a lot of this was happening last week. Not exciting games for either one of those two teams. So we've got like 10 days into this thing now. And I mean, that is a massive fish, catfish, I'm assuming what that looks like. I will just say, excuse me. I will just say I enjoy trout fishing a lot and used to do it as a child in Colorado. So let's be careful, Tech fans, on the trout fish smack talk. Okay, I would appreciate that quite a bit if we could do that. Anyway, that's where we're at there. But you have this like hateful eight versus new prideful member of the Big 12 thing going on, right? I mean, I know I saw earlier. Where did it go? I know I saw Payson Cougar fan saying "Go Red Raiders." Now that stands to reason, right? Payson Cougar fan being a BYU fan is going to root against Utah. But even I feel like a lot of the hateful eight crowd is going to be on board with that too. You're going to have a lot of the old school Big 12 crowd not exactly in the mood to root for Utah based on how perhaps a minority of the fans online, probably a minority of the fans online, acted when they unceremoniously came into the conference. Okay. So there is that to keep in mind. I just like it's got like an old money, new money feel to it as well. If we're talking about just narrative here, and I will get to the ESPN piece in just a moment, which is more about matchup, but narrative here, old money, new money, like Utah program established, been around for 30 years. They've been winning at a high level for a while. Texas Tech, it's been much more spotty over the last 30 years. Utah has definitely been a program that's achieved much higher highs and done it much more consistently under Kyle Whittingham. Whereas Texas Tech comes in and is like, look at this new money, baby. I mean, like when I say new money, like literally walking in with the bags of cash right now. Like Cody Campbell just made $4 billion again within the last year by selling his latest company. So Tech's got the new money. Utah's the old establishment money. What's going to win out there? So you've got the young upstart trying to come in and buy his way into football success. And Utah says, no, son, you got to come do it in our house where we've been winning games and beating people like a drum for 3 decades now, basically under this head coach. Okay. As for the matchup, I'm telling you guys, I know this sounds crazy. But this to me is the perfect encapsulation of like, what do we know actually about either one of these teams? Okay, we think this is going to be a great matchup. We think this could be Big 12 game of the year. But what do we know about these teams as opposed to what do we think about these teams? Let's take a look at this from Bill Connolly, who does ESPN's S&P Plus, which I think is a great way to try and gauge where teams are at and rank teams. Bill Connolly says current SP Plus rankings if based solely on 2025. Look at who is number one there. So this is the SP Plus takes into account like recruiting rankings and previous year's results and all those different things. He says if you just strip all that away and put in just the results of the 2025 season, this is what it spits out as the top 15 teams in the country. Texas Tech is number one. Texas Tech is number one. So when you start going down the stat sheet and you're like, man, well, Texas Tech beat Oregon State, Kent State, and Arkansas Pine Bluff 174-35. And they've been just totally dominant in all three phases. SP Plus, even considering level of competition, says, all right, that's real impressive. Like, we've got to take that seriously. So seriously, in fact, we'll rank you ahead of Oregon, Penn State. Another interesting one there, BYU. Look at the Cougars lurking. Okay. Look at the Cougars lurking. But Utah is also in the top 10. Utah is also in the top 10 here. So based solely on results from this year. The question that many folks have is, okay, that's great. I understand that they've been very good this year, but what do those results mean when you just rattled off the opponents there? Oregon State, Kent State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then for Utah, you've got a Cal Poly game, which obviously meant very little. Road win at Wyoming. Yeah, challenging enough place to play. And then the UCLA game, which was really what Utah was hanging its hat on. 43-10, but now New Mexico wins 35-10 there, and you're like, okay, well, wait, hold on. Like, how good actually is Utah? How much does that mean? How much do we take it seriously? This was a 5-7 team last year. Okay. What do you make of either of these teams? Is Texas Tech, is Baron Morton really a guy who's going to be able to carry out anything close to 11 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 900 plus yards, like averaging 300 yards a game through the air? Is he really going to be able to carry on like that throughout the year? Anywhere near it. Obviously, I don't think anyone would expect him to keep exactly on that pace, but anywhere near that. Can Baron Morton do that? Is Devin Dampier going to continue to make dazzling highlight reel plays like when he drops the ball, picks it back up, spins around, and throws a dart to the corner of the end zone without turning the ball over? 12 picks last year, not a single one so far this year. Is that going to continue when the competition really ramps up? Does the UCLA win actually mean anything? We don't know yet. And I feel like ESPN having on one hand SP Plus spitting out Texas Tech as the number one team in the country, and then on the other hand, giving you this. Now I know this is a different metric. Okay, I understand that, and I think most of us are not exactly super high on SP Plus, but look at this. That kind of screws me up here. I'll pop. Just look at the corner. It's a 65% win probability for Utah, is what this is showing. Okay. They're giving Utah a 65-35 split to win the game. So while Texas Tech is the number one team in the country, Utah has a 65% chance to win the game. That felt to me like, I know, somewhat nonsensical. I'm using two different statistical analysis here, the two teams. Obviously, you have to take into account that Utah is the home team, but doesn't that just sort of provide a great parallel to what we're all sitting here doing? Like, how do we reconcile what we've seen from these two teams so far this year? Just don't really know. But man, I mean, it doesn't stop there when you're talking about the storylines in this game. I'll give you two more narratively and one more actually, like, in between the white lines. It's not really statistically, but in between the white lines. And that is, I heard the Pro Football Focus guys saying that this might be the best matchup in the trenches of the entire season. Now, this is not of the Big 12 season. This is like in college football this season. You may not find a better matchup of offensive line v defensive line. Okay, Utah has two of the top 15 prospects on PFF's big board. Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, they're offensive tackles. Those guys are probably going to be first-round NFL draft picks, certainly will be NFL players, very high-level players to book in things, protect Devin Dampier. Meanwhile, Texas Tech has the number one rated defensive line in the country right now, according to PFF. Skylar Gill-Howard, now maybe this is riding the strength of that amazing pick six, but he's the number one ranked defensive tackle in the country right now. And then outside of that, oh, by the way, David Bailey, one of the most sought-after players in the transfer portal last year, Lee Hunter, Romello Height, all these guys, star-studded, high-level transfers. It is a menacing defensive line that Texas Tech has. They have absolutely mauled people so far this year. So you send them up against two of the best bookends in the entire country, and man, what is this going to look like? That's going to be great. I know it's not the sexiest thing to watch, and people probably won't spend a ton of time watching it, but especially PFF's going to talk about it because the guys that are nerding out watching the film, your film nerd guys, your draft nerd guys are going to love this game for that. They're going to love this game. Absolutely love it. I also like just the portal storylines of this game. I mean, two of the more intriguing things that happened in the portal this past offseason were Utah going all in on not only Devin Dampier, but then Jason Beck, his offensive coordinator, to come in from New Mexico. And we know the obvious storyline with Texas Tech, number one class in the country, depending on where you look. But we consider it here to be the number one class in the country. Finally, of course, as I mentioned, it's me versus Baron Morton, guys, because I think, if you ask me, what does this game really come down to? It's got to be a Baron Morton game. I have my doubts that Texas Tech is going to be able to gash Utah on the ground. I don't think Texas Tech is going to be just running them over on the ground. So what does it come down to? Well, it comes down to, can Baron Morton make big time throws against a big time defense in a big time environment on the road? And this is exactly the type of thing where I have always openly questioned his ability to do this consistently enough to get Texas Tech over the hump. And so, look, if he goes and does it, I'll shut up about it for a while. I mean, clearly his performance this year has been great, and he is showing you that the capability is there against overmatched competition. But what about when it's not overmatched and it's very good competition? Say what you will about how Utah's offense will hold up over the course of the year. We know their defense is good. We know that defense is good because it's a year that ends in a number, and Morgan Scalley is there and Kyle Whittingham's there. They have a good defense. How is Baron Morton going to respond here? PFF they dropped some great numbers, man, and I would highly encourage watching those videos. Their weekly show that they do. But Baron Morton at home has an 80 grade from PFF. On the road, he's a 59. Similar numbers, pressured versus not pressured. He's only a 35 when pressured, and I would imagine Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley are going to dial up an aggressive game plan and try and get some pressure on him. So, will he actually make those throws? We'll see. But I can't wait for it.